Hi everyone, I just thought I'd do a quick edit of the webinar that I ran yesterday. So many people were interested in hearing my tips on the Maldives, but so many people just couldn't be there because I did it so late last minute. Anyway, this is a cut down version of some of my suggestions for things you need to consider before you book a holiday to this fantastic destination. The first thing is time of year. I mean, are you absolutely fixed in your dates? If you can possibly avoid school holidays, Easter and Christmas, that certainly will be easier on your pocket because prices are a lot higher then. High season is November through to February, really. But the climate of the Maldives, it's warm all year. The only difference really is how much rain there is. And there's most rain in May and in June. It's not monsoon weather, but if you travel in May or June, you're likely to get a few days where there'll be rain, not necessarily 24 hours worth, but a bit of rain. But the advantage of traveling in May and June is you can seriously save yourself a lot of money because that's when the major offers are. So if you're flexible in your time and you don't mind a bit of rain, then May or June could well be the time to go for you. And the next thing to think about really is transfers from Malé Airport. There are basically three ways of getting from Malé Airport. You can go by speedboat, you can go by seaplane, and for the islands that are a bit further away than from Malé, what you have to do is you take a domestic plane. After you've landed, you take another flight, and then it's a speedboat onto the resort. There is always the option with those resorts that are further away to upgrade to a seaplane transfer, and that'll probably usually add a few £100s to the cost of your holiday. But I suppose the question you need to decide on is, do you mind getting on a small plane that lands on water? I've had a number of customers who've come to me and said, you're not getting me on one of those small planes, Sue. For other people, it's a fantastic start to their holiday because they get to see views like this. All the coral islands scattered across the turquoise Indian Ocean. You do have to wait a bit longer. Seaplanes don't leave as regularly as speedboats do. But then, you know, as I say, it's a different kind of start to your holiday. So worth thinking about. Speedboat, seaplane, then we can choose the right resort for you. The next question is, what type of accommodation are you looking for? Is it the water villa, the Instagram moment that so many people have dreamt about? Or would you prefer a beach villa, somewhere where you can literally walk out from your deck onto the sand and into the sea? There are pros and cons for both. In terms of a water villa, for many people, it's a non-negotiable because that is their dream. And of course, you can get down into the sea from your water villa, sometimes with a water slide, sometimes just something as standard as some steps. And, you know, as I say, it's what people are dreaming about. But what you do have to bear in mind is that it does actually substantially increase the cost of your holiday. Probably an extra £2,000 onto the cost of your holiday, staying in a water villa over a beach villa. But if that's the dream, that's the dream. Also, the water villas are a bit further away from the centre of the resort. You'll have seen pictures, I'm sure, of the kind of the jetties that you have to walk along to get to the centre of the resort from there. But that may not be an issue for you. There are lots of advantages to a beach villa. There are lots of interesting options with beach villas. They come with a pool, they come with a jacuzzi. You can go straight out onto the sand and into the sea. And they're better value, you might say, than a water villa. And some people like the fact that it's less far to get to the swimming pool and the restaurants and so on. So that's something to think about. The next thing to consider would be the kind of all-inclusive plan you're looking for. I mean, basically in the Maldives, it always makes sense to go on all-inclusive. It's not like you can poodle down to the nearest bar or restaurant. You will be eating and drinking in the resort. So actually paying up front for an all-inclusive plan, which will cover all your meals and your drinks, is a good idea. But there are all sorts of different kinds of all-inclusive plans. Some resorts have a standard all-inclusive plan, which includes meals in their normal restaurant, with the option to go to some a la carte restaurants at an extra cost. And their plans sometimes don't include premium spirits, but then they have a superior, like a plus version of their all-inclusive plan, which allows you to eat in all restaurants and includes premium drinks. So you have to ask yourself the question, really, how much of a foodie are you? How important is it to you to have a real choice in terms of where you eat every evening? And do you really like your premium spirits? Because if you do, then either a resort which has a super duper all-inclusive plan as part of the package is what you should be looking for, or alternatively, you should be upgrading to an all-inclusive plus or all-inclusive premium plan, which has dine around. Okay, the next thing to think about, I know lots of things to think about, but the last thing to think about potentially is the type of resort you want to go to. Do you want it to be a large resort with lots of activities to do? Do you want it modern, or do you want it quite traditional with a Maldivian feel, a kind of no news, no shoes? Are you looking for a 4-star resort, or are you looking for a 5-star resort with lots of bells and whistles? Because actually the Maldives can cater for you at whatever level of luxury you're looking for. And of course, that does impact the price. I do get quite a few people asking me for adult-only hotels, but actually, I don't think that adult-only hotels offer great value. There are a few, but generally speaking, you'll be paying an extra 20% against an equivalent resort for the benefit of being in an adult-only resort. So I tend to suggest to my clients that basically we look for Maldives resorts that are not geared up for kids, where there aren't kids clubs, where there aren't loads of activities for the kids to participate in, because by what will happen is if you're a family, you're unlikely to be choosing a resort like that. So the resort becomes more adult oriented just by default. So that's worth thinking about too. And then just finally, this may be a slight kind of niche requirement, but if you are really into your snorkeling and you are an experienced diver, and that's one of the reasons for going to the Maldives, then we'd need to be looking for a resort with a house reef, where the coral is much closer to the resort itself, where you don't have to be taken on a boat to access good dive sites. So yeah, a house reef or not a house reef, that's a final thing to consider. So I hope this has been useful. I could probably think of another half a dozen issues that you may need to think about before you travel, or certainly before you book. If you'd like me to have a look at your Maldives holiday for you and start planning that trip of a lifetime, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I hope that's been useful, as I say. and have a good day. Bye-bye.